It was only a matter of time. The Irish have had enough. The Irish are starting to fight back. As a once safe and homogenous society such as Ireland was starts to unravel, starts to break down due to government mismanagement and dereliction of duty, well, certain things inevitably start to happen. Safety becomes an issue for ordinary citizens because they're influxing people from very unsafe parts of the world, very backward and primitive parts of the world, where crime is just a way of life and certain types of crime are normalised. So you influx large numbers of these people, and primarily in the vast majority of cases, young men, into a safe, modern, advanced society, a high-trust society, and then inevitably crime rates go up and the type of crimes committed changes radically. And that's exactly what we're seeing in Ireland. Now, the problem with that is, of course, the problem is the crime, and the problem is the people committing the crime, which, to my mind, those people shouldn't be here in the first place. And even if they got here, they should have been sent back immediately. But that doesn't happen in the modern world and in the modern Ireland. But we still have a system. We still have a whole infrastructure that's designed and geared towards the old Ireland, which is gone now, essentially. It's all gone. There's a totally different Ireland now in place, and it's happened in a very, very short space of time, at a blistering pace, and it's continuing to happen at a blistering pace because the government not only will not change it, it doesn't even admit there's a problem. So we still have the same police force, mostly, vast majority of whom are unarmed, and we still have the same armed forces, which are very small in world standards, and we still have the same judicial system, we still have the same prison system, all designed for the old Ireland, all the same. Nothing's really changed, but Ireland has changed, and the people who are here have changed, and the demographics have changed, and the criminality level has changed. So you can see there's an ever-opening chasm there between what the system is designed to cope with and to deal with, and what the system now is trying to cope and deal with. And let's just say things are going downhill fast. Things are going from bad to worse. Now, eventually, I would argue that if nothing is changed and nothing is solved and the problem is not at least identified and then rectified, eventually you end up in civil strife. This is a playbook that's happened all over the world, all through human history. If the political elite, be it a royal court, as in would have been in, say, the French Louis XVI type days, Marie Antoinette, all those people, if they become completely and utterly detached from the ordinary citizen, the person just trying to go about their daily life and live in the best way they can, if that chasm becomes too wide, becomes the Grand Canyon, then inevitably the whole thing just essentially breaks down, and you end up with civil strife, insurgency, civil war, whatever you want to call it, revolution, rebellion. This is nothing new. It's not a new concept. And I feel very strongly that with what I'm seeing in modern Ireland, we are absolutely heading down that path. Whether or not the politicians at the top know it, or whether or not they do know it and just don't want to see it, head in the sand stuff, who knows? But that's where we're going. Now, one of the other stepping stones on that path is you'll see various things happen along the way. A two-tier justice system starts to become evident, and we already are seeing a lot of evidence of that. If you're from a certain group, shall we say, in Irish society, you get a different type of treatment than, say, if Johnny McGrory or Paddy McGinty shows up in court. You get a different... we all know what's happening. We know what's happening. And we see the headlines, at least the ones that they print, which they only print a fraction of the ones they should print because they hide most of it. Another thing you're going to see, and we're seeing it now, and I'll show you right this minute because I have the receipts, is the ordinary Irish public are just fed up with criminality and with people who have just come here essentially abusing us and taking advantage of us, and the state not being able to protect us and not being able to protect us from these crazy people who have crazy ideas and probably come from crazy backgrounds in crazy countries. They can't protect us. So what's happening is ordinary Irish people are starting to take matters into their own hands. Check this out. This is from Dundalk, one of the biggest towns in the whole of Ireland. Now, this isn't just some random bunch of young lads out for a mid-evening stroll shooting the breeze. No, this is a gang. This is a group of young men. Probably could be some women in there too. These women are just as exercised about the state of affairs as men are, if not more so. Well, why are they walking around the streets of Dundalk? Well, that's to protect their community, because there have been attacks in Dundalk against vulnerable people, children and women, and these men are feeling that the police, the Gardaí, are not doing what they would expect them to do, are not covering them, are not keeping them safe. So they've decided to launch their own patrols. Yes, vigilantes. That's a sign of a sick society. When you get to that point, something is very definitely wrong. I covered a story the other day of an Indian man or Pakistani man, maybe he was Afghani, I don't know, don't care. He was a man who was new to the parish, and he was essentially trying to meet up with very, very nefarious ideas on his mind with a 13-year-old, as he thought, a 13-year-old Irish girl. He travelled all the way from Dublin to Letterkenny, which is quite a spin, and he had condoms all ready to go and he was ready for action. He was caught by citizens, not the Gardaí. Citizens caught him. Private citizens, Irish citizens. They caught him, held him, and with a bit of luck, that man will be sent to prison. But as I said, luck is not on our side, and I would guess, if I was to guess, he will walk free. Maybe he'll get a fine, maybe he'll just get a caution. Here's another chap here who, allegedly, was in an estate in a suburb of Dublin, and he was exposing himself to young children.
Get the fuck out of this estate now! Get the fuck out! Get the fuck out of this estate now! Get the fuck out!
As you can see again, not, shall we say, a local man, but again, locals caught this animal, and, well, that's how it went. Like I said, you can only push the Irish so far, and then when we snap, we snap. Now, once again, will anything happen to this guy? Okay, he got as we would say, he got a few slaps. He certainly got a lesson taught to him there. But will the state do anything? I would again guess no. They'll do absolutely nothing. Because the state is not designed for vermin like that. The state isn't set up for that. It's not designed for that. We don't have the systems to deal with that. And more Irish people are waking up to that fact and that reality. And I'll bring you to the last example, and this just happened yesterday, where this man was going around essentially trying to break into people's apartments and threatening to grape women. Yes, he was high as a kite, seemingly, supposedly, from eyewitnesses, and drunk, or both. And again, he was just doing what's probably just the norm in wherever he comes from, but it certainly was never the norm here in Ireland. But he's here now, and there's no attempt by the authorities to put him back from whence he came. But luckily on this occasion, the woman who he was attempting to menace with very, very evil intent, potentially going to end in a very, very horrendous situation, her husband was present, thankfully, luckily for her. And he was able to again deal with this man in a manner he should be dealt with until the police arrived. As the lady in question replied to a friend of hers, a proud patriot, Fergus Power, she said, "I'm in shock and the adrenaline is coming down now. Thank God for my husband being able to pin him down, the black fella screaming he's a soldier too. If I was on my own, I'd be raped and killed." A horrendous situation, narrowly avoided, only thanks to the intervention of her husband, who was able to subdue this vermin. And this is how it ended up.
They can't say telling me I'm going to rape your wife and all, he said.
Won't be doing that.
I'm going to rape your wife and all, he said. He closed that door. Look, there's all this stuff. Look. Look at that. All this shit.
Once again, I'll throw this open to you. What do you think will happen to this guy? What do you think will happen? What will the state do to this guy? What penalty will they impose on this guy? This guy this is probably the norm for him. So it's probably just what he does on a weekday or possibly at weekends or both. The state, as far as I'm concerned, will do bugger all. They'll do little or nothing. This guy will probably be booked, his name taken, whatever name he gives them, and then he'll just be let go on his merry way. Yes, that's where we're at, guys. That's where we're at. That's a society in the midst of unravelling. And what I think is going to happen is more and more of this is going to become the norm, because people now are realising no one's coming to help us. We're on our own. The state has abandoned us. The state has decided they're going to continue on with this massive, multicultural, mass immigration experiment. And if a few eggs have to get broken with the local native population, then that's a price they're willing to pay. The question is, are you and I willing to pay that price? I'm not.